All right, welcome everyone. This is Colleen Coles, and I'm so excited to bring you this really exciting webinar, my 5-step formula to discover your purpose and turn it into a career you freaking love without losing the success you've worked so hard for. And my name is Colleen Coles. I'm a transformational life coach, a purpose alignment coach, and I'm just so thrilled to be here with you. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right. So this masterclass is for anyone who's a young professional, 20s and 30s, who, in a career you might be good at, but that is not fulfilling to you. And you desire greater purpose and to follow your calling, but to do it in a career with meaning. And if not a career, in some way, shape, or form that truly, helps the planet and helps other people. In the next 45 minutes, what we're going to be covering is these main points. We're going to be answering these questions. So you're going to learn why trying so hard to figure out your purpose is actually keeping you stuck. Also, the secret to getting really, really crystal clear on what you're meant to do and how to take the next step forward with ease and even know what that next step is. And how to have the courage to step into your dream when you've been feeling so down and unfulfilled. It can be hard to make that jump. And finally, just to learn that you don't have to sacrifice the success you've already gained. You can even become more successful doing what you love and being exactly who you want to be and who you are, even in competitive fields. So my promise to you is that I'm going to be sharing with you this step-by-step system on how you can truly live out your purpose, know what your purpose is, and feel confident being yourself. And then, letting that lead you into a meaningful career. So my passion, my promise is that I'm going to show you how to know your purpose and be that confident person that you need to become to own it and claim it and live it, and then turn that into a meaningful career. So just to kind of go over some ground rules, the lay of the land. Nobody finds their purpose without a hero's journey. So whether you're a hero, whether you're a heroine, it means that you can't do this without some challenges and without kind of completing that circle of coming home. And that takes going through some fire. It takes going through some, like dragons and dark times, but it also means there's some glory at the end and you come out of that fire like a diamond. The biggest challenge of walking your path is to actually trust the process that's leading you there. That couldn't be more true. That's the biggest thing, because when we're surrounded by people who don't do what they truly want, it's weird to be the only one doing that. And so you have to trust your path and the process that's leading you to that. It takes super real dedication to face your fears and do the work to do you. Again, we all have these darker spaces. We all have things holding us back, which we're going to be talking about today. And unless you're willing to get real, to get raw, to get honest, to face those shadow spaces, then you can't do what you're meant for, because those are what are holding you back. And again, just like doing what it takes to do you, it's so easy to say, and that's such a fun saying that I use all the time. And yet we've all noticed sometimes it's hard. And so you gotta do you and do what it takes to do you. Nobody can do this for you, and no one can save you, not even me. So you might be on this webinar. Congrats to coming here. This is the first step. And I'm not your guru. You're your guru, and you're the one who has to actually step through this process and do the work for you. There's no magic wand. It's 100% responsibility for you to get the results. And so if you're not open-minded to trying a different way, I can't even help you. The results of my clients are awesome, my personal results as well. And they're also completely possible for you. It's when you own it and when you're willing to have a little bit less skepticism and just crack open that open mind a little more is when you can do that for yourself as well. So I want to ask you some questions. Does this sound like you? Do you feel like you are in a job, you know, you're super talented at it, maybe you've spent a couple years in it, you've been told you're really great, and yet it just doesn't light you up? Are you feeling stuck in which direction to take your life and not sure where to go next? Do you want to help people? Do you want to help more people? Do you want to make an impact? And do you want to do something meaningful with your life? You just don't know how to do that or make the leap to do that. Do you feel like you have a higher calling, a higher purpose on this planet, maybe even God-given, that you just don't know how to access? Do you feel you have so many interests and passions, but that there's just anxiety when it comes down to choosing one? That there's no way you could even just pick one to dedicate your entire life to. You have way too many interests and passions. And do you feel like deep down you have an idea, maybe even an inkling, of what you actually do want to do with your life and how you want your life to look, but something's holding you back, maybe thinking it wouldn't be realistic, you don't know how it would turn out, you don't know how it actually happened, it's just not meant for you? Couple more here. Do you feel overwhelmed with the idea of doing something different with your life because you're afraid of having to start all over? Like, you know, having to go to grad school if you needed to, having to figure it all out. Are you afraid that if you do what you actually want to do, oh, this is a big one, you actually wouldn't be supported and it may not be what God wants for you? You feel like what you want isn't realistic. You know, it may be in a competitive field and you know this, even if you want it, because you just might not make it. And finally, do you feel like deep down your desire that you know in your heart isn't possible for you and might not be, again, what God wants, so you don't even get started or try? Do you feel like you don't even deserve what you truly want in your heart? Because if so, I can help. The key, though, isn't these problems, even though they feel real. Fear is not necessarily real. What the issue is that you haven't yet discovered these 5 secrets to knowing your purpose and living it out in a meaningful way. Because once you master these steps, this is what I can tell you can happen for you. When you truly own what it is you desire in your heart and start to actually apply it in your life and in the world, because you know you're aligned, you know you're on purpose, you know this is what you want to do, and you even know this is what you're meant for. When you get into that path, you feel more free. And you feel free in what your life looks like, how you're spending your time, what you're doing just personally. And you also feel free from what other people think about what you're doing or think about what you should be doing. You just do what you love. You will love and honor yourself so much more because you're actually listening to yourself and the path that God wants you to follow. You're waking up excited, joyful, and with a mission to carry out, and nothing could be more important than that. Nothing feels better than that. And also, what's so fun is that instead of wondering if this is actually what God wants of you and you're doubting yourself or that you deserve what you think you desire, you actually have this confidence that comes from knowing God is supporting you in exactly what it is you're doing, and that he or she can even help you do more of it in the world. Whew. And also, finally, that once you master what I'm going to talk about tonight, you're going to know that your life is headed in the right direction, 100 million billion %. And you can have a clear focus on what that direction is. So now is the time. Now is the time to step into your purpose. Now is the time to step into your power. And there's never been a better time on the planet to do just that. If you really think about history, through the course of mankind, we've had major struggles and challenges. And most of the time, they've been about our survival. Most of the time, it's been about how to get enough food, how to make sure we were clean enough to even live, how to make sure our families were protected, how to make sure, that we had a tribe that loved us and supported us. And now that we have those basic fundamental needs taken care of, food, shelter, water, space, family, we have those taken care of. There's nobody trying to come to your house with a spear and steal all your, food in the cupboard. That's just not our reality. There's no tigers, etc. So what's so cool about that is that we have all those needs taken care of, and we now have the opportunity more than ever before to actually fulfill our desires and what we feel is actually our purpose. Viktor Frankl is an author who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And what he described was so profound. He described how this search for meaning, this desire to fulfill a calling, this desire to fulfill our potential has been around for ages. And not, even just from the 1940s on, but even before that as well, of course. But the problem was that we couldn't really fulfill it with how family structures worked. If you're a woman, you were expected to stay home. Even with financial things, there just weren't a lot of opportunities to make money. And now is different. We've never had more options. We've never had so many needs met. We can actually go to the grocery store and get most everything we need. And so, it's such an exciting time because we can actually fulfill our desires, just like these people have here too. Now, again, with the options part, we've never had more options or possibility to fulfill our desires. And also because of the technology age, we have so much access. So we have Tori Kelly here. She was discovered and now is a world-class singer. And she was discovered from just making YouTube videos. She, as a teenager, she was doing what she loved and she was following that, just doing more and more of it. She stepped into her zone of genius and now she's a brilliant singer. Sheryl Crow is a great story because she started as an elementary teacher. And if you feel like you have so many different passions or desires, or maybe are ready to make a career switch but just don't think it's possible, she's an excellent example because she decided to tap into more of what she really wanted, even though it was very, very unrealistic. And she now is a world-class singer. Emma Stone over here is one of my favorites. She actually went to my high school in Phoenix, Arizona. And what's so funny is that she was just one of the hundreds of girls that went to my school, but yet she had such a passion for acting and was able to follow it through even as a 15-year-old person. But now, because she's so passionate about it, so clear on that desire, she's an Academy Award winning woman. And it's just brilliant. Now, also, I have a picture here of Shark Tank where if, people can sell pictures of cats and make millions of dollars, you absolutely have the potential to fulfill your desires with cool ideas to help the planet. We've never been so blessed. Now, I want to share something with you here that we are truly living in a different age. I'm someone who definitely loves spirituality and metaphysics and just energy itself. And so what's so fascinating about what I shared, of us coming into a new age, that we've never had our needs met up until now as a human race. And even though that's true, it's actually kind of scary. Because if we want to look at it energetically, we're traveling up in human consciousness from these bottom chakras here. So this is the chakra system. These are energy centers in the body. And the root chakra is closest to the ground and part of our security, our survival, our earthly humanness. Our consciousness keeps individually and collectively going up into these higher area chakras. So the green here is in the heart, We have our throat chakra of speaking our truth. And finally, all the way up into our intuitive side and our crown chakra, which is our connection to the divine and our awareness of who we are as a divine figure. And so this also correlates with our humanness and how we relate to life on earth. When we think that we have to survive, that we have to stay with the pack, it's not safe to go outside of the norm, we're actually resonating in lower areas of frequency, just like our ancestors did. But what's so cool is that as we evolve, we've gotten those needs met, we don't necessarily need to stay with the pack. We're evolving to see we can go higher and actually help the pack more, or the tribe more, by doing what we actually love and then helping our tribe with those unique gifts. And my friend, that is a supreme shift in consciousness, because it hasn't been safe to do that before. You know, with not having our needs met, we weren't allowed to go for our higher desires, our higher ambitions. And so for the first time we get to climb that high, it can be scary up there. And that can be why we get scared to really go after what we want, because we're afraid of losing our tribe and we're afraid that it won't be safe. But this is our opportunity now as human people, as humankind, to really go for it, because in fact, unlike any other time, there's been a shift now. That we're in an Aquarian age. In 2012, we shifted into that era, meaning that now's the time to help the planet by doing more of our purpose and what we love. And so it can be scary, but it's time to jump. It's time to do that. And that's actually how we're going to help our tribe the most. So it's a calling. Now, this is the one thing you really need to know, that there are really 5 steps that you can master to really hear your calling, step into it, and be brave enough to follow it. That's what we're about to talk about right now. So before we do, I want to introduce myself. Who am I? I am Colleen Coles. I am a life coach, a purpose alignment coach. So I help young professionals get clear on what they truly do desire, what their purpose is, and then turn that into a meaningful career. I'm a certified life coach, and I'm also a licensed teacher. My background is in elementary education. I'm a graduate of the level 1 and 2 masterclass of Gabrielle Bernstein's Spirit Junkie Masterclass. Also, my first coach and mentor for coaching was a graduate of the Santa Monica University Spiritual Psychology program, and she taught me through that, and I learned great amounts through that experience. Also, she's a author and a coach, so really great experience. And the biggest thing that I think is awesome is that I've really found my thing. There was a time when I didn't think I'd ever find my thing, if you will. And from that, and from following these tools, I've been able to so much more resonate at a higher frequency, resonate in a happier state that has brought freedom, peace, joy in what I do, and not only in my career, but in every other area of my life. It's just ricocheted and rippled down into my relationships, into my health, into my self-worth. And that's what I desire for you too. Now, that hasn't always been the case at all. You know, when I first, I moved from Phoenix, Arizona, where I grew up, all the way across the country to Charlottesville, Virginia, in 2012. And the reason I did that was because I visited Charlottesville once when I was student teaching on the East Coast, when I got the opportunity to do that. And I just fell in love with it so hardcore that I decided to go back, graduate, and move out and do what I really loved to do, which was, I thought, teaching, and to go where I loved, which was this tiny little city in Virginia. And even though I had liked teaching in college, I had been getting so many good accolades and, you know, praise from my professors. I was even offered a job when I was student teaching, but had to, I chose to not take it so that I could go back and graduate. I actually never had my own classroom. I never could actually find a job doing what I thought at the time is what I wanted. And that was so frustrating, definitely depleting to my self-worth. Also, I was a very controlling person, very untrusting. I had to do it on my own because, frankly, I didn't trust my intuition at all. I felt like what I knew of my intuition through my life totally screwed me over time and time again, and that it just couldn't be trusted. So I had to do it all. That, I had to take care of everyone else. It was up to me. I wasn't very confident at all. I felt super lost and very, very, very unfulfilled. I felt like I didn't matter, that my life didn't really matter because I couldn't do what I wanted. It was just so frustrating. And finally, I just was really stuck in following the rules all of the time instead of my own true power or choice. Now, everything changed when I saw this little sticker. And just to share a little bit more of my story, when I moved across the country, I was with my sister. We packed up my little Mazda Tribute and we drove across the country from Phoenix to Charlottesville, Virginia. And it was just so exciting, but also so scary because I didn't know anyone else in town. I was dropped off by her and my phone was broken. I didn't have anywhere to stay, but luckily I figured it out. And I thought again that everything was just going to be working out for me, that I would find a job really quickly. They had great ratings with their schools, but what I didn't realize was that even though there were a lot of jobs, everyone really liked their jobs and there weren't a lot available. So as this person who was ready to take on the world or even be really super good and everyone loving what she had to offer, I couldn't find anything. I started substitute teaching, and finally, after a year and a half of that, I was hired as a full-time substitute at a small private school. This was a good step in the right direction. However, this whole time I was feeling totally inadequate and like I couldn't do what I was actually meant to do. So just so stuck. During that year I was teaching, I kept wanting to do more. I kept thinking, okay, I should be applying to more jobs. I should be applying myself to these substitute jobs that I have every day. I would just go to different subbing classrooms all the time. And yet I couldn't find the motivation to really do it. And I didn't know why. And I remember at one point thinking, I need to impress the principal so that she'll actually hire me. But instead of applying myself to put together a great curriculum for a class I was teaching and then show her, I just kind of spaced out and didn't let myself do that. And I couldn't figure out why. And all I remember was how depleted I felt every morning, how overworked I felt, and how out of alignment because I wasn't even doing what I wanted. It was all so just, I felt like I didn't matter and it just wasn't what just so sucky. And I wasn't good anymore at what I was doing and I couldn't find the motivation to do what that was. So I remember one evening after I taught kindergarten, which I really didn't like kindergarten anyway. I was so tired. I was packing things up and trying to make myself feel more important than I was really feeling and write notes to this teacher, even though I know she probably wouldn't even read them. I was picking up my stuff, having to go teach pre-K after school. And I was leaving the classroom and shutting off the lights and just thinking this sucked so bad, when I turned to the right and I saw this little magnet in her classroom. And it said, "Do more of what makes you happy." And this was from a teacher who was totally lit up by what she did. She was so good at it. And when I saw it, I remember thinking, how lucky is she? She's so lucky to be able to do that. I can't do that. But something switched in me when I saw that. And I realized that I could do more of what I wanted. I could actually stand up for myself. And that's when I started to look into counseling, and that's when I started to do more of what made me happy, which was spiritual development, personal development, reading great, self-help books even. And from there, I even found coaching. Now, what's funny is that while I had the chance to either go into a master's for counseling or do coaching, I found myself in the same position as when I was teaching, that what I thought I should do wasn't making me happy, wasn't lighting me up, but I thought it's what I had to do or what a good girl would do going into grad school. And yet, finally, when I took my own power back and got really clear using these steps on what it feels like to be in alignment, what it feels like to be guided and being on purpose, all of a sudden I remember I went to that master's interview at the college I was going to attend, and all I could talk about was my meditation practice and the spiritual development I had been doing. And every one of them said, you know what, you'd be a great life coach. And so to my surprise, they even gave me clarity. But it was because I think deep down, I had already chosen. And I stopped working from the shoulds, and I started working more from what do I desire? Because I realized that what I desire is actually in God's will as well. And so that was the day I decided to sign up for a life coaching. I called 2 coaches I knew in town, and one of them became my first coach, Irene, who I mentioned earlier, and the rest is history. But that's what it can take to just follow and get into alignment and feel the most passionate about what you do and make the biggest difference doing it. So let's go ahead and dive into these secrets here. So the first one is to master your intuition. So again, these are what it takes to get into alignment with your purpose, feel really purposeful, and then go out and do it and turn it, whatever that purpose is, into your meaningful career. All right, so number 1, master your intuition so that you're always feeling guided. Everyone has an intuition, and the most painful part, at least from my experience, is when we're just feeling unconnected, unguided, that something out there doesn't care about us, that our lives don't matter, and what we have to offer don't matter. And that's just not true. The remedy for that feeling, the remedy for that and to gain your power back is to remember that you actually are being guided all of the time. It just takes practice and the ability to tune into that frequency. This is like a radio station, my friends. When we're listening to CNN, for example, and it's all just fear-based thinking, and that's all we're surrounding with, we're not going to feel very hopeful. We're not going to feel really inspired or even clear on what our next steps are. But when we decide to change the channel, maybe going to Discovery and just tuning into that circle of life, that connection to God, if you will, whatever our truth is, we're going to hear different thoughts. We're going to start asking different questions, and we're going to start just feeling free because we're listening for new frequencies. That intuition frequency is always there, but I like this picture so much because it takes that stone to, that made the ripples in the water to go settle into the soft earth beneath the water. Just to be able to feel and know that truth within, okay? So what that means is we need to know what our intuition is and what it's not, so that we can actually know what to tune into and what not to tune into. The best part about this too, guys, is that the intuition is actually the mastermind. You don't have to be. My favorite part about this is when people think, or say to me, I just got to really figure this out. That's not true. You don't have to figure it out. The universe already has this figured out. It has it figured out to your best interest and the quickest way this can work for you. But what you need to do is relax enough and get quiet enough to hear it and to do what feels good and what feels guided to you. Now, this, of course, takes trusting the process and trusting that your intuition as you, as part of you, as connection to you, and that you're like the cell phone plugged in to its cord. Like you know, and you're charging and you're ready to roll. It's more than a feeling. It's truly a gift, and it's truly a process or a skill to use your intuition. Now, here's a really, really wonderful example of how the universe ties it all together for you, and that it doesn't have to be up to you. You just have to tune to it. So this here is Sarah, and she was my major first client that I ever had about 2.5 years ago. And she came to me because things all over were falling apart for her. But the biggest issue was that she wanted to know how to move forward in her career. The problem was that she had so many interests, she had so many things on her plate, she was applying to grad schools, and then on top of it, her relationship was like not working out. And so the journey that we went through first was to start meditating and to start really gaining silence so that she could hear her inner inner truth. And from there, we started to look at the process of how, from knowing that truth, to align yourself with what actually feels good in a like more than just, you know, let's eat cake all day way, but in a guiding way. And what doesn't feel good, what doesn't feel aligned. And from there, she was able to raise her frequency enough, become confident in herself enough, be brave enough to just be who she wanted to be, whether she was in a relationship or not, whether her family approved or not, just doing what she really wanted. And she started to resonate just at a happier, lighter, more confident feeling and frequency. And I remember one day she came into my office and she said, "Colleen, you wouldn't believe it. You know, we've been talking so much about how I've had passions of acting, but writing and journaling and photography and travel and dance and all of these things. Like, how could I have ever figured it out? Well, I just met a Navy officer who said they're recruiting for journalists, where they'd be able to take pictures, write, travel, and then have a master's paid for, which I could apply for a master's in fine arts." So the coolest part about this story was how after she changed her frequency and she tuned into her own intuition and even getting to know herself and her inner truth to hear that, then resonating at such a higher vibe and a happier vibe and a more confident vibe, this fell into her lap. The universe then also brought all of her passions together to fit something so beautifully her. And she now is a Navy officer as a journalist in the Navy. And this is what she said. She said, "Colleen changed my life and in a most unexpected way." She says, "Remain open and you surrender to the process, that not knowing what exactly it is you want can be great. It can be the best place to be because it means you can do anything." And when I see that, I just think about letting ourselves go and surrendering so that the universe can bring it together for us, because that's exactly what it can do. Now, before we move on to secret number 2, I just want to ask, where do you feel you need to surrender? And if this is you of having many different passions, I want you to know that the universe does have your back. The universe can help you figure this out. It's just about tuning in, and I'm wondering where you can do that for you. So secret number 2 is to release the limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Okay, so to not get into this so deeply just right now, I want to give you basically what's up. So without realizing it, there are conditions that are running your show. There are beliefs that we've held on to, made sense for us since we were very little children. And so these thought processes, these beliefs are called paradigms, and they're in place from when we were very young. So when situations happen to us that we don't understand, our subconscious mind will help us feel at ease about it by creating what's called a paradigm, or like a roadmap, to make sense of that situation. And when situations can be kind of scary, traumatic, like life-changing, that's when these paradigms are set into place. Now, what can happen is that when we have certain roadmaps or paradigms, belief structures in our person, and they might be saying one thing, such as, "I can't succeed." Then we become adults and want to make ourselves rock stars. We want to go for it. We want to be motivated. We're not doing it, and we can't figure out why. This is why. Because it's like we have a roadmap of Detroit from when we were really young. This is how you get around. This is how you get to be safe. This is how you get love. This is how you have your family's approval. This is how you stay with the pack. This is where you go to get pizza. All of those are in the roadmap of Detroit from when you're really young and what made sense for you then. And so then say you're a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, something in there, and you are an adult, you want to figure out your life, you want to be positive and confident and go for your dreams. Well, guess what? That's in Paris. And it's like you're trying to drive around Paris, or this personal positive place as an adult with your adult choices, but you're trying to drive around with a roadmap of Detroit because you haven't changed the paradigm getting you around. It's as if your little girl or your little boy is still running the show. And that's what can hold you back. You're gonna get lost in Paris if you keep trying to drive around in the same map or same ways that you got around as a child. So that's why we need to release those limiting beliefs or paradigms holding you back that are actually driving the show. So I have a story about a client, and it's just fascinating, amazing. This client had a commitment to her inner girl and her paradigm to a certain belief. Now, I remember she called kind of out of the blue and feeling like she really wanted to talk. And so I remember exactly where I was. I was in a horse stables, petting horses and feeding some horses. And as she called, I could just see all of this in the fields I saw in front of me. And she said, you know, Colleen, I keep applying for jobs. She had a master's in public health. She went to a great school for that. She then got a internship at the EPA in Washington, D.C., like super great. But the more that she wanted to wake up early, wanted to go succeed in that job, she actually kept sleeping to the point where she was sleeping so much, she almost lost her job. And she couldn't get out of bed. She almost was basically addicted to sleeping to deal with her problems. And so when she called me, she was like, you know what, Colleen, I've really made the last straw. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm about to lose my job. And basically, I said, okay, what memories come to mind when you think about this issue? And we talked and we coached a little bit around this. And what she came to was that, you know, I just have this memory that, you know, right now in her life, everything was going great. You know, she had the great job. She had the ability to go to yoga and like eat healthy and was in a great area in DC. And she said, you know, I just remember when I was 10 years old and we were playing softball with my dad. And I remember him saying, you know, her name is Maria. You know, Maria, you just have this idea of I'm not worthy. And she said she didn't know what that meant at the time, but she remembers it so vividly. And now here's the thing. Her father was a very reserved person and didn't always reach out to show love. And so what we ended up seeing was that her inner girl agreed and made a commitment to her father in that moment to agree with him. She wanted his love and would do anything it took to get that love. And in her paradigm, in her mindset, to get that love, she wanted to agree. And he said, you know, you have this I'm unworthy complex. And so she bought and sold that to herself. And so now that's her paradigm, that's her roadmap of Detroit, right? I'm not worthy. And if I'm not worthy, if my dad says I'm not worthy, I can get his love, right? Now, as an adult, she has all these very worthy, you know, situations. She has a great job. She has a great apartment. She has a great, you know, yoga routine, but she keeps sleeping through it. And why? Because more than anything that's important to her is that her little girl gets the love of her father. And that needs to override for her anything else that would make her feel worthy, because it doesn't agree with her commitment or belief that she should be unworthy. So the biggest breakthrough for her was that by seeing this belief running the show and her little girl's commitment to being that unworthy person, she was able to shift it. Because do you see how her now reality didn't match with the paradigm she had? So her belief structure is going to win and mess that up so that she actually then agrees with it again and can lose her job and say, I'm not worthy. But by Now, her seeing that, she was able to start to switch her behavior. And so she decided to move. She realized she didn't even like that job that much. And now she's working as a top coordinator at a big place in her hometown, domestic violence shelter. And she said she has not slept in except for on the weekends. So very, very exciting there. Now, just to ask you, where do you feel stuck? You know, what do you feel are the beliefs maybe attacking you? Because when you can see those, that's when you can start to shift those invisible barriers that are holding you back, just like it happened for Maria. Secret number 3 is to get laser clear on your desires. So this is so important. It seems so simple. Now, speaking of paradigms, we've really been trained to not trust our desires. We've been trained to do what we need to do to, not to just be the good girl, behave as a guy. And we never really learned that it was okay to do what you really wanted to do. On top of that, it can be so hard because never before have we had so many options. And you might have so many desires that it can be hard to narrow it down to one. Now, why is desire important? Because desire gives motivation, clarity, and a sense of purpose when we actually allow them to speak to us. We're trained to think that our desires are irresponsible, outlandish, or wrong. And then, of course, sometimes we think because of that, we don't know what we want. However, it's been my experience with the clients I've worked with that we really do actually know what we want. We really do. It's just that when we don't own it, we can't see it. And yeah. Now, here's there's a quote from Sylvia Plath, and it's about, she stood in front of a fig tree, and with so many options ahead of her, she looked at all of these beautiful figs as the desires and dreams of where her life could go. But because there were so many, she just watched herself get overwhelmed and starve because she couldn't pick just one. Maybe that's how you feel too. I know that's how I felt too. Before we get there, I just want to share part of my story too, was that after I decided I didn't want to teach, all of a sudden I was free, but yet I had so many options. And that almost was even worse because I couldn't decide right away what I wanted. Now, here's a really good example of how when we claim our desires, we can actually start to move forward, and it can give us so much clarity on our purpose. This is a client who I worked with just actually for about an hour. It was just a quick kind of breakthrough session. And we started by talking about what he was feeling. He was feeling really stuck in where he was. He was not in a job he loved, but he was so afraid to narrow it down to one passion because he had so many, there's so many options, and yet he felt his time slipping away. Other people he knew were figuring their stuff out. He didn't want to start a family before he knew what he was doing in a career, and he just didn't know where to get started. And he just kept saying, like, I'm just so confused. I'm so lost. I just keep applying for jobs. I don't even know what I'm looking for. I'd love to be busy if I could, but I just don't know what I need to be doing or what to work towards. And I was like, well, what do you really want? And he again and again kept saying, well, I don't really know. There's no way I can know. And yet he started telling me about things that he loves to do. He loved to travel. He loved to meet people who were less fortunate than him when he traveled. He said he got really good at being poor and traveling on a budget. And he said he even went to Argentina and worked in like a nonprofit for a year, just working with these people in Argentina. And finally, I started to ask again, if you could do anything, what would it be? And he finally said, well, I do have this one idea. And all of a sudden, he said, when I was in Argentina, I thought it would be so cool to help people make money by charging their phones with old computer parts, and that you could make solar panels out of these computer parts, put it to their phone, have it be charging, and then living off the grid while also making money. And I was like, and he just explained this in such detail and such intricacy. I was like, okay, that's a great idea. Why aren't you doing that? And he couldn't answer me. Now, what I think is so fascinating about this story is how he had kept saying he didn't know what he wanted, but he actually did. He actually had a very intricate dream and idea, yet he wasn't claiming it, and so he convinced himself he was confused. And yet that wasn't the truth. The truth was he knew exactly what he wanted, he just didn't believe that it was possible. And after that one conversation together, he knew then which jobs to start applying for. He started applying for solar panel jobs, and he ended up getting a fantastic job with a great company in town, and now is working towards that dream with that as the end goal. Now look at how that vision, when you're clear on your desires, gave so much more of a path and structure to his days now. He knows that he's building his dream now, and so he can have the patience to do what it takes to get there because he knows what he wants. Now I want to just take a deep breath here. Just ground into your body. And I want you just to close your eyes. I want you to really just, again, take a deep breath and let yourself tune in to what you think you would really want. So many times we think we don't know. But I want you to ask yourself the question, what do you really want to do with your life? What would you love? And whatever answer comes up for you, that first thing, that's your first step. That is a vision that can help you get to where you want to be and what you're really meant for. Even if you don't know the full end picture, if you can see what you want as the next step, you're on the right path. Now, secret number 4 is so good. It's to determine your zone of genius. Now, what is your zone of genius? You could probably guess, you may have heard of it, but zone of genius was termed by an author, Gay Hendricks, and he's a Harvard researcher and now a personal development writer. And zone of genius is basically where you have your lifestyle, your skills, and your passion meet together to actually create something of your life's work. Now, this factor is what makes the most successful people the most successful. When we can actually get clear on our desires, be following our intuition, and then finally just asking what's the next step and what do I really love, and then tune into that, that's when we serve the people in the biggest way. When we get into the zone, that's when we can make the biggest impact and actually follow our calling. Now, this is the way I look at it. God gave us certain gifts, right? Each individually. And also, God gave us a certain skill set that we can study from or study about. We have a passion in us that gives us the desire to actually follow through. And when we can match those two things together, our gifts or skill set with our passions, bam, you have an explosion. And the icing on the cake is that you get to make this match your lifestyle, okay? Now, what's really also cool about this is I think about Emma Stone. She is someone who is definitely in her zone of genius. She has the skill set. I remember seeing her in a play my freshman year and just being so jealous because I also acted and she was really great. So she has the skill set, and yet she also has the passion for it. And so when a person can let their passion be the rocket fuel to then go through the structure of their skill set, it creates this big blast off because they have the motivation to do it, they have the skills to do it really well, and that can create a big impact. Now, what's great too is that this can also right here too is that you might think you're really bad at something or unmotivated or that you're an unmotivated person, but you're not. You just probably aren't in your zone of genius. I'd love to share this story. I remember when I moved to Charlottesville, Virginia, I had a roommate and I started to talk to her about this concept. She's like, yeah, you know what? I lived with a girl in college, and during college, she was the worst student ever. She got terrible grades. She was unmotivated, unfocused. And something clicked for her after college when she got into law school. And she really found her thing. And all of a sudden, she was this A-plus student, top of her class, and now she has a great job as a very specific type of lawyer. And I was like, holy moly, that's it. That's it. That is the zone of genius for that person, because she wasn't, motivated and all those things, but because she found her thing and that passion and then matched it with her skill set or what she was good at, she was able to become the first in her class. Like, this is what makes the Meryl Streeps of the world, the Tom Hanks, the, Tiger Woods, all these successful people, because they match their passions with their skill set and also can turn it into a lifestyle. This is yoga with Adrienne. This is Adrienne, and she is a yoga teacher, and she has been so successful in what she's done as being an actress and also a yoga teacher online. She has 2 million subscribers on YouTube. She's had one of the most searched workout routines on Google, and also gets to do her other passions like be a voice actress. What's so cool about her is that if you ever watch her videos, she's a perfect example of someone in her zone of genius and also owning her stuff. Back when we were talking about the chakras, we were talking about how it could be scary to go away from the tribe by being unique and doing you, right? But we're actually going to be helping the most people in that way because we're serving others through our gifts, but we have to be brave enough to be unique. Okay, so Adrienne is a great example, because when you watch her videos, she's not this like perfect little yoga person or so zen and so, sacred. Like, she's actually throwing in a lot of her personality throughout the whole thing, a lot of sense of humor, a lot of quirkiness, and she has 2 million followers. She has one of the most researched workout routines on Google. And it's just because she's being herself and allowing her personality, her skill set, even as an actress, to kind of infiltrate into this other love and ability and skill set of yoga. Now, just to share with, let's see, sorry guys. Okay, just to share, even in my example, I want you to really apply this to you though. Okay. I want you to think about, what is your zone of genius? This is what you need to be clear, because when you can be in this space, you can really help the most people and have clarity to know how to match your skills and your passions. So, what are your passions? What are some of your skill sets? What have you been really good at before you were even, an adult? That's your zone of genius. Now, really quickly, as a caveat, I want you to notice that there's another ingredient to this equation. Lifestyle is a big one. And so this was a game changer for me. For something, I realized that I was a great teacher, and I thought I loved to teach. I thought that was my passion. And I also thought the idea of a teacher was that you had to be in a classroom. But I remember I was teaching, helping with kindergarten, and there was this woman who was dropping off her child, and I was feeling so depleted and not having fun and frazzled. And this woman just came in beaming, smiling in this beautiful trench coat and just gorgeous. And I was like awestruck. And I remember she was so happy and dropping off her kid. And I looked down at what I was wearing, and it was like, really cheap hand-me-down clothes from Old Navy, shoes that were worn and I didn't even like. I just felt so yucky. And I realized, like, I wanted what this woman had. I wanted her lifestyle. I didn't want to have to come in to a class at 7 a.m. every day teaching until 5 p.m. But I thought I had to because it was what I was meant to do. But what's so cool about your zone of genius is that it blends all three. So you get to put your lifestyle and your desires ahead of a terrible lifestyle just because, you're good at it. So when I became a coach, I was able to blend all three of these things together and actually see that I got to teach, which was my skill set, but I got to do it around my passion, which I realized more was spirituality and personal growth. and then make it into a lifestyle. I didn't have to teach in a classroom with little children. That wasn't the lifestyle I wanted. And so instead, I got to create a lifestyle of me traveling, which I love, of presenting into big groups, public speaking, and also just being in the comfort of my home. So your zone of genius is all three things. So what lifestyle would you love? What are your skill sets, and what's your passion? Finally, everybody, the last step is to invest in a mentor and take frickin' action. You know, a car can only steer and turn when it's in motion. You can't really turn your car or direct your car unless it's moving. And to move it, you gotta take action. Now, there's a big difference between just flailing around and being busy and trying to, you know, throw mud on the wall compared to taking guided action, taking inspired action. And that involves secret number one, which is to tune into your intuition, right? But we can't also just decide not to act and wait till we're 40 to figure it out, because then you're missing your life, and lives are in need of you and you're not helping, right? Even though I know you want to. So, you know, it can be really natural to feel a bit lost. Again, we've never had so many options. We've never been so pressured to even really figure it out. But what's cool is that research is showing that we're actually growing even through our 20s, and we're going through what's called an emergent stage. And the emergent stage is when we're actually making more neural connections through making mistakes, and also through just discovering and choosing things and figuring out whether we like it or not. And so what's so cool, and why I have a picture of these stones here, is that you can imagine it as just taking steps through, you know, a creek one at a time. You don't have to take the right action. You can take the most inspired action, but just taking action will get you across the river. It doesn't necessarily matter which stone of these you hop to next, as long as you're taking action, meaning trying a new job, you know, talking to a person, going to a new meetup, figuring out what you love. Any action is better than no action. And what can be the best is when you're super inspired, so that you're not really wasting time. Now, you know, on the note of wasting time, I really encourage you to invest in a mentor. Once you figure out more of what you truly want, whatever that is, whether it's just a passion or a skill set, you know, go and talk to somebody who's doing what you'd want to do. Even if you are only 50% clear, go talk to somebody who's already doing that and see if their lifestyle is something you want, or something that, you know, what they're doing is something you could do. I have to tell you guys, all three of these women have been mentors, and I've had even more than this. But I would not be in the place I am right now, in the amount of time that I've done it, without these women and other men in my life. You know, it's just Gabby Bernstein, this is Irene, who I mentioned, this is Gina DeVee. All of these women helped me get so clear on what I wanted, and helped me go past those beliefs that I couldn't even see. Remember, step 2, because, you know, you can't see the picture when you're the one in the frame. And what mentors do is that they bring you accountability so that you actually do what you say, and strategy so that you can really go after what you want. Just from coming to this webinar, for example, you're coming across new ways of looking at the world in your life than you wouldn't have had unless you came, right? And we all need a mentor. Every person you think of has had a mentor who you love. Every single one. Oprah, Thomas Edison, Einstein, Tiger Woods, every Academy actor, they've all had mentors. We all are on the shoulders of giants. And so, you know, that's why I recommend so much mentorship, because otherwise we just wouldn't be able to move quickly, and we wouldn't be able to get past our fear as easily. Now, proof is in the pudding. This was a client of mine, and I've protected his name for privacy, but he was somebody that I had worked with for a little bit, and then he came to me to try to get unstuck with moving forward in his acting career. And so he said, for a long time, I was unhappy and unfulfilled with not only my work, but also my passion for acting. I didn't take myself very seriously, and I felt like my goals were distant. But what ended up happening after working together was that he auditioned and got a recurring role on a national network television show, Turn on AMC. And this was somebody who's from a very small town who had applied for this position or this role many different times and never had gotten it. And he finally did it. And it's just amazing because he credited the work that we did as the major turning point for him actually getting that role and stepping into his power as an actor and doing what he loves. And now he's really good at it too, which is so good. You know, here's some more client success stories that Morgan P. here said she looked back and realized that she achieved all of the goals she set back from when she life coached with me as a mentor. And whether it's, you know, any mentor can help, just having a mentor. And she's still using and sharing the things that I taught. Meliana has all these new tools that are so unbelievable. She gets so many more clarity now and on to bigger adventures. It's really exciting. This is a client of mine, Michael, and he was so stuck as a teacher in Hong Kong. And yet after talking, we came to a really huge breakthrough around beliefs and his connection to his source from when he was really little. And he broke through to then own his power, not care about what other people think. And he now is an entrepreneur and doing great things with Bitcoin and leading school trips and other international trips. Here he's in Jordan. So he really said, I reached out to Colleen, and that could have very easily been one of the best decisions I will ever make. So today I promised why trying so hard to figure out your purpose may actually be keeping you stuck. And now we know why, because the universe has it figured out for you. And by you being on a station of fear and contraction and like you have to do it all, you're not connecting to your source and the intuition guiding you. We also talked about the secret to getting crystal clear on what you're meant to do and taking the next steps forward with ease. By getting clear on what you actually want, you can know what you're really meant to do. We talked about how to have the courage to step into your dream when you're feeling so down and unfulfilled. And also that you don't have to sacrifice the success you've gained already, but you can become more successful doing what you love. That's by stepping into your zone of genius. Even in these competitive fields, writing, sports, music, acting, whatever it is for you, you know, IT, like Sean with solar panels, like all of these things, when you love it, you can do it. Just like Emma Stone getting an Academy Award. And I finally promised that I would show you my step-by-step system on how to know your person, get into alignment, and finally turn that into a meaningful career. And that's exactly what we talked about. So here's what you need to win. We want to master your intuition, release the limiting beliefs holding you back, getting laser clear on your desires, determine your zone of genius, take action, and find a mentor. This mentor could be anybody, you know, just make sure you find somebody so that you can actually move ahead. So now you have a choice. You have the choice to kind of stay where you've been, or you can see what's possible. You can see what's possible when you actually step up and tap into what the universe has in store for you by following these steps. You know, staying the same can be so challenging because, you know, we see all of our friends and we see our life passes by, and all of a sudden being 22 and being in kind of a smaller job that you'll figure it out, all of a sudden if you're 28, that's a lot of your life passing by. And who's to know when it'll really stop unless you really decide to own it and choose for yourself what you really want rather than what's just been given to you. So this is how I can help. What I've done is I've set some time aside to speak with you personally over the next couple days about how you can apply these strategies or steps to your life right away. Because you don't have any more time to waste. You're probably almost 30 or already 30, like your life is going and you have more people to help and the planet needs you. Now, the cost of this is free. And I want to tell you why we're doing this. Why I'm doing this is that we're going to give you, we want you to have total clarity around your own desires when you might have so many or not even know where to begin. your purpose and how you can turn it into a career that you love that's actually in your zone of genius. So we're going to help you figure this out just through a one-on-one call. And also on this call, if you want us to help you and we think it's a good fit, we may invite you to become one of our actual clients we'll take on this month. Now, who is this for? You might be absolutely this is for people who are absolutely committed to finding more about your true self and making a real difference in the lives of others. This is not just a quick get rich quick. You know, this is something that you might be happy making 40,000 a year if you're doing what you love. What I want for you is for you to figure what that thing is and then be successful in it because it's what you actually love, which usually equates to being successful financially as well. You must have the true desire to be thriving and loving your life. This is not for the faint-hearted. This is not for somebody who wants to just dabble around. This is for somebody who's serious and ready to thrive in their life. This is finally to know what you want out of life and how to be confident enough to get there. If you aren't committing to living a life on purpose, this isn't for you. This is about finding your purpose, doing what God's will is for you, and really honing the call and going through whatever it takes to get there. So if we work together, so what I'm asking from you, so we've set aside time to speak with you personally. And when we speak, if you want us to help you and we think it's a good fit, we may invite you to become one of our new clients we'll take this month. And if that were the case, we'll put you through the same steps and system we've put our clients who are now totally owning their purpose, have already changed it and turned it into a career they love, like my client Sarah, who's now a Navy journalist, and even people like Sean who are working towards it now, or my other client Maria, or the actor who is now on an AMC national network television show. We're going to expect you to be willing to do the work to find the clarity and really develop that around your purpose within the first 3 weeks. Now, the reason I say that would be easy is because, again, when you tap into your desires, you can really get that clarity quickly and kind of go through the bullshit that's keeping you stuck and keeping you in confusion land. So what we would expect is that you would put the work into uncovering all the drama and just going straight for the heart. And that is easy when you're willing to open up and see what's in the way. So I just want to kind of finally conclude this and invite you with a special invitation by going to this URL. So if you wanted to claim one of these spots to talk personally with me, to really know how to get into your zone of genius, how to combine what you're really good at with what you love and what that looks like in living out your God-given purpose in the world to make the biggest impact and help the most people and live out your freaking dream, I want you to go to this link. It's www.colleencoles.com/book-a-clarity-session. Okay, so that is where you can go to step into alignment and really, really, really start to own this dream and own this passion and really get clear on what you want and what it looks like to do that in a meaningful career and help the most people, because they need you. We all need you. We all know that life and the world can be cray-cray, and so we need help. We all need to be light workers. We all need to be ready to just fulfill our passion and our purpose, because that's how we're going to help the world the most. We're going to help the world by being happy ourselves and then raising the frequency of the planet that way, along with doing what we love and what we're good at, because then we're helping with our gifts. We're really good at it and we're passionate, so we'll keep doing it. So that's what I want for you. I want you to be able to find that and then own it by becoming the woman or man that can handle it, by following their hero's journey, and to really go for it, because that's what God wants for you, and that's what I know deep down you want for yourself too. So spaces are very limited. Sign up now. Go to www.colleencoles.com and /book-a-clarity-session. And I hope to see you on one of these calls. It's been such a nice time getting to just present this information to you, connect with you here. And again, I hope to hear from you soon. Go to www.colleencoles.com to book a clarity session now. Spaces are limited, sign up, and thank you so much for watching. Much love to you. Namaste.